Welcome to DynaVap Live. Today is April 23rd, and we have an exciting show to go over today. I am Retail Josh.
I'm George.
I'm Pranav.
And we want to thank everyone for tuning in. Pranav, let's do some shout-outs right off the bat.
Sure. We have Dave from the UK, Simon from North London, Leon Gabika from Manchester. Wow, a lot of people from the UK today. Inferno Patrick from Oregon, Haggis Hunter from Scotland, James from Oregon, Dutch Mike from Netherlands, Keith Newton from Alberta, Butter Jesus from New York, Andy Cab from Texas, Sato from Spain. Thanks everyone for tuning in, guys.
Thank you.
And yeah, a lot of people all over the world really appreciate that. Yesterday was Earth Day. Did you do anything exciting, George?
I don't know if I'd call it exciting, but I was certainly reflecting a little bit about things that I think we should be reflecting about on Earth Day. It's also kind of interesting as I was doing a little bit of searching, as it seems like the air and the environment has generally cleaned up quite a bit over the course of the past month, as many places have, we'll just say, shifted the way that they've been doing things. So I think yesterday was a good day for contemplation.
And then for those of you who haven't checked it out already, on our Dyna blog, we did a Happy Earth Day posting talking about sustainability and how it's important to DynaVap. And George, you want to expand upon about that a little bit?
Yes, I think sustainability is a really important thing, not only as a consumer, but even more so as a manufacturer, because we're responsible for the products that we're putting out into the environment. And we also have the capability and the capacity as not only the manufacturer, but we also play the role of designer to design our products to be more conscious to the environment. So a few things that you might have noticed is that we've made some real efforts to reduce the amount of plastic that we are utilizing in our products, as well as in our packaging and our mailers. So we no longer have the green plastic mailers, which are really cool looking to begin with, but they were just a whole bunch of plastic that wasn't really necessary to get the product. And then with the 2020M is the introduction of our first round of sustainable and recyclable cardboard packaging. And this is a pretty exciting thing, at least for me, and hopefully others out there have had some positive, we'll call it interactions with the packaging. It's not just packaging, it's got some real utility to it. I think many people that get the packaging, just like the plastic tubes that the M's used to come in, it's reusable right out of the mailer. Open it up, inspect it, check it over, maybe give it a quick clean, a couple dry runs, put it to work, and you can put it away hot. Put it right in your pocket. You got a carrying case. And I just posted a picture on the Dynatography Instagram the other day of the cardboard packaging that's been riding in my pocket for the last 2 months, doing we'll call it durability test. And I was really pleasantly surprised to see that it's holding up pretty shockingly well after 2 months of riding around in a pocket.
And speaking of you mentioned the Dynatography Instagram, which is one that you run showing different DynaVap photos.
Right.
Pranav, you've been busy with the DynaVap Instagram as well. What's been going on there?
I have. We've been doing giveaways every Monday, and it's been going great. We have some really cool content. So if you haven't subscribed yet, you should. And you'll have a chance to win some cool Dyna goodies.
And did you do anything fun for Earth Day, Pranav?
I did. So I said goodbye to Earth and went to space. Haven't come back yet, so maybe someday soon.
You're just hanging in there like that motivational kitten poster?
Yes.
And so for those of you who haven't subscribed already and you enjoy this show, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so that way you're notified whenever we release more content such as this. Check it out. And we also want to thank the community, the DynaVerse. It's because of you that we're able to be here. The FC forum, /DynaVap, /Vaporizer. Vapor Asylum. All that community support is integral to why we're here and why we can continue doing these, releasing products and entertaining you all out there, as well as the many retailers out there across the world. George, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Yes, I would like to echo what Josh just said. The community that has begun to form, that we like to call the DynaVerse, has really made it much, much more interesting, I think, for us as a manufacturer. And I think it's a whole new place for many of us to interact with many people that we have never met from all over the place and talk about things that we care about. And to help further that, we have kind of an exciting announcement. We have just made the DynaVerse Discord public, or at least mostly public. So for those of you that are watching, we have a link if you'd like to join the DynaVerse Discord in the description of the YouTube video. If you like, Pranav, you can kind of take it from here.
So we finally made the DynaVerse Discord public. The invite link is in the video description. We have opened it up to 100 more people at this time. We'd like to slowly increase the number of people there so that, it's a little better handled, for the lack of a better word. I don't know how to put this, George. Would you elaborate?
We want to make sure that the people that are coming in really want to be there to help promote things in a very positive light. So I think let 100 people in. Let's just see what happens and see where it goes. And if things continue to go well, then we'll open it up. We'll let in a few more. And this way, we can kind of all get to know each other in a little bit of an easier fashion. And things, I'm hoping, will settle out in a nice manner where we'll all kind of get the feel of it. We'll help each other out. And it won't be overwhelming, hopefully, for anybody.
And expanding that community just a little bit more.
I think so. It's such a satisfying thing to see the community that's continuing to grow around the products that we contribute to. But certainly we are not the only important aspect of the DynaVerse. The DynaVerse is so much bigger than what DynaVap is. When we see what so many of the makers are doing and what you see, I think, regularly on various different social media platforms, the things that people are doing, the accessories that they're making, but even more than that, the way that they're treating some of the other people in their lives. Sometimes people, they don't even know when someone's having some difficulty how they're offering some support. And this is what I think is a really nice thing that we want to expand upon and provide more people with an opportunity to participate and help grow this community and keep this community the island of positivity in the sea of negativity that sometimes the internet can kind of be.
Without a doubt. And speaking of that community, on our YouTube channel, there is a community tab where every time we do a new episode, we ask a question. This week's question was, where would you like to share the DynaVerse? The options being Dynavlogs, Zoom, Instagram Lives, forums, Reddit, FC, and different platforms. The Reddit and FC forums selection was the top choice, which is perfect because on April 29th at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, we are going to be doing an AMA with George on the DynaVap subreddit, and that can be found at reddit.com/r/DynaVap. So be sure to check that out on April 29th at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And let us know.
That's kind of an exciting thing, Josh.
Very much so.
Never done an AMA.
No, this is the first. And so if you have any questions that you'd like to George answer, be sure to be on that subreddit at 6 p.m.
If you have any suggestions in terms of things I shouldn't do.
Don't talk about Rampart. I'll just leave it at that. And then, so I think now is a good time to get into the main topic for today, and that is community submissions. We asked to see your home setups, and we got some awesome submissions, didn't we, George?
Oh yeah, some really cool pictures.
And so let's see them, Ben. And so this one right here is just a really unique collection and setup. Got a water piece there with, looks like to be a blue anodized Omni 2019. Single flame torch with a big tank on it. Just a really nice, simple, clean setup. This next one too is really cool. This one I really like because I think that blue anodized Omni is just so striking. And you came out with those last year,
No,
Or no,
I think it was
2018.
almost 2 years ago.
Yeah, almost 2 years ago.
This was a project that Pranav and Joe were pretty heavily engaged in. So why don't you elaborate a little bit on that?
So yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while, almost 2 years now. It was a fun and interesting project to work on, definitely. And it was kind of fun to like get to know the process inside out and learning as we go along.
So what exactly was the process?
The process. So basically, we have an electrolytic solution, and we have an anode and a cathode, and we just run voltage through it, and it changes or modifies the surface of titanium. Did I get that right, George?
Yes, it selectively increases the titanium oxide layer on the surface.
So depending on the thickness of the titanium oxide layer, you'll get different colors. And what was the most challenging part about this process was that we anodize each part separately. So for example, if we are anodizing a stem and it turns a particular shade of a color at a set voltage, the tip and the mouthpiece won't get the same shade at the same voltage. So it was so challenging to like match up all these different parts and always get the colors like nailed right.
And sometimes there's what, 2, 3, 4 volts difference between parts?
Not even. Sometimes it was like lesser, and it depends on like the resolution of the power supply. There's so many variables, and getting it right was hard.
The temperature also played a factor.
Temperature played a factor. The electrolyte itself, like over time, like after a couple of runs, it would degrade, and then we wouldn't be able to get the same shade at the same voltage. So just like playing around with all these variables and getting things right, it was fun. It was fun. And we made a bunch of goodies that people enjoyed. So I was happy.
I do find it a little bit amusing that you use the phrase getting it right multiple times next to Game of Thrones. I did think that was a little bit humorous, to be completely honest. Not gonna lie.
Was. I wish they got it right.
And what's the next one here, Ben? Now, this is a setup that is very similar to mine at home as well as yours, Pranav, correct?
It is surprisingly similar. I do have the Mega Globe, though.
I do as well. And now, George, we were speaking before the show. You tend not to use glass very often, correct?
Yeah, glass, it tends to be a little bit breaky for me.
Is that due to you just getting clumsy with it, or is it because, like, the cat?
Well, let's put it this way. I'm not a big fan of carpet either.
Okay.
And therefore, when the glass decides to see whether or not it has learned to fly, it tends to fail catastrophically.
It always hurts, too, when glass breaks. I've been there. Pranav, have you ever broken glass?
Not yet. I have broken a lot of things. Glass hasn't been one of them.
Oh, I think this will be a 2020 with a lot of firsts for you, Pranav. Hopefully broken glass is the next one on the list. And what's the next one here? Now, this is, you and I were saying, like, this is the ultra minimalist setup.
Yeah, this one's particularly nice. In fact, the only thing that might be nice, and you can't quite tell, is whether or not the 2019M there has been upgraded with the captive cap. Because the reality is, once you've got a captive cap on there, as long as your tip in your cap is not hotter than it should be, you can just drop it right in your pocket, and it's more or less self-contained. You just don't have a whole lot of anything that isn't absolutely necessary in this setup. So,
No, if you're going for a short walk or a little weekend trip, this is perfect. I really like this one.
this is like the backpacker kit.
Definitely.
You know, we're going on like a 150-mile bike ride where you don't want any more mass than is necessary.
Yeah, you want to keep your weight to a minimum. Like the people who do the like the Appalachian Trail, they're trying to shed grams and not even talking ounces at that point, just try to keep the weight down.
So you'd want to shave before you go on a trip like that.
Yeah. But I don't want to. And this next one here, you got a lizard out on their little windowsill. Not sure what that little rubber thing is, but I think that's a neat shot of the 2020. You can see all the grooves there, the rumble strips, the new fins, as well as the captive cap. And get some wildlife in the photo as well.
Just some fun geometry.
I think the rubber thing is like an adapter.
Oh, you might be right. Yeah, if you're the one that submitted this, let us know in the chat. And this next one, Ben. We got a lot of Vong submissions, and this one I just like the framing of it because it looks like you have not a Vong S in the back, or that could just be the perception playing with me there. But yeah, that was similar to the very first piece that you gave me for the Vongs. Became my daily driver. Yeah.
I've always particularly liked the Vongs.
Yeah.
They're a little bit larger, so they're a little bit easier to handle between the fingers. Mm-hmm. And because we've got a little bit more substance there, we can machine in some more complex tactile geometry.
Well, that's why I like the Hydra so much,
Yeah.
the Hydra Vongs, because they're just so much easier for me to use.
Josh, there's some Tremors action going on in the back, isn't there?
Some what action?
The movie Tremors?
Oh!
What is that? I'd like to know.
I have no idea. I'll have to take a closer look at that. And this next one, Ben. And then this one created some interesting discussion because this person is using his Vap cap while riding a camel. But when Pranav first saw this one, he was insistent that it was an alpaca.
It does look like an alpaca or a llama. But regardless, someone out there is giving camels amazing haircuts.
Huh. So apparently the camel barbers are still open.
Yes.
And then you noticed the unique patina on that cap as well, George.
Yeah, the patina on that cap really caught my eye. And that's another thing that I find really interesting is how different these devices, especially some of the anodized ones, can take on an appearance in various different lighting situations. Mm-hmm. And you know, when you're mixing the caps and the tips with various different stems, both ones that we've made and especially some of the other ones that makers out there in the DynaVerse have made, you can get some really interesting material, color, and texture combinations.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why, too, I always, now it can be a little bit hard, but I mean, if you're taking a walk, take your Vap cap outside and just look at it in the light. I think you'll notice some acute differences that you may have not noticed before just by seeing it in natural lighting. The cap is a great example of that. And I think there's one or two left, Ben. Oh, yep, we got a rock climber here.
That one's kind of fun.
Yep, unique use of that.
Well, it's just I think it's another correlation that it seems like these devices tend to be well liked by people that like to be outside doing active things.
Mm-hmm.
Dan says that the camel photo was taken on Hump Day. So that's interesting.
Now, was that one
pun.
hump or two?
And Trina Dino says, when my DynaVap is empty, alpaca. Some good
Trying to
puns.
Dyna and Dynamite do some amazing puns, I will say that.
You know, there's something that's something our world could certainly handle more of, and some good puns.
I love a good pun.
Definitely.
Usually to the point where it gets to being torturing the coworkers. And it looked like Pranav was going in his descent there. And then this one,
Deorbiting?
just a nice simple setup. And those little jars, you said, Pranav, those look like the ones from Vapo Shop?
They do. I have seen Buffett Up sell the black version of them. They're pretty neat.
Mm-hmm. I do like them. I like them a lot.
It looks like there's a Dynacoil on there, too.
Yes. Yep. And then there's one more. This one is probably my favorite one out of all of them, just simply because I'm a huge nerd and you got Dungeons and Dragons here.
Nice.
And then that almost, it's not a Citadel, but I'm guessing, I want to say that one looks like a flat flame to me.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that specific torch.
I think we saw ones like that at a couple different trade shows. It might be a multiple, like a triple inline torch,
Okay.
but it's a nice little pedestal for their device and got a
Yeah, that
bottle of
looks
Jack
really
there.
nice.
And then
cool.
a really cool collection. You got the OG Vap cap, it looked like there.
And
Or,
we got multiple Vongs. Not only I see Vongs that we made, I see Hydra Vong, and I see a couple other custom units. So definitely some pieces that look like they'd be happy mated with a water tool.
Definitely. And especially if you're using a water tool, a lot of people like to use concentrates using water. And we actually cover that on this week's episode of The Snap. Welcome to The Snap. This is the segment where we answer frequently asked questions in a very rapid fire format. So let's get right into it. On this week's episode of The Snap, we're going to be discussing how to properly clean and remove your DynaCoil safely. You just need a few things: isopropyl alcohol, your device with the dirty DynaCoil, and a watertight container. The first step that you need to take is remove your cap and your tip. Set your cap and stem aside. Then take your isopropyl alcohol, pour it into your watertight container. You don't need a lot. And then you take your tip with your dirty coil inside, drop it in, and give it a shake, and then let it rest for a couple of hours. This will help loosen up all that residue and help it break down and make removing your coil a lot easier. Now that we thoroughly rinsed our tip and coil, we can now safely remove it. Just grab your stem and your cap that you set aside earlier, use the digger outer on your cap, and push out that condenser tube. You can now set aside your stem and cap again. This condenser tube will be used as your tool to remove your DynaCoil. It will be inserted into the bottom end of your tip, but be sure you cover up the open end of your tip with your index finger when removing. It'll prevent something like this from happening. Then gently push, and you will feel some resistance, but that will prevent it from uncoiling itself, and it'll pop out just like that. And if this is your first time cleaning your DynaCoil, you will notice it looks a little bit different than when you first put it into your device. Just like any other metal component, like the tip or the cap, it will develop a patina over time, but it will not affect performance in any way. Thank you for watching The Snap. Be sure to let us know in the comments below what you thought of this episode and what topics you would like discussed in the future. Once again, I'm Retail Josh, and thanks for watching. And welcome back. And now if you want to see your own content up on a DynaVap live episode, submit it into the DynaVerse using the DynaVerse form on the website under the About section, and we may share it on a future episode. Now that we're back, I think it's a good time to remind everyone that the 419 sale is still going on. That'll go until the end of the month. That is April 30th. At 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. That'll give you 20% off the DynaShop, excluding the precious metals and any CVAPs when they come back on the site. And I would highly stress checking it out, and then also look into the M for a Friend. If you purchase any vaporizer or vaporizer kit, you have the option to purchase an M for a Friend. That's a 2019 M for $30. So a really good deal, and that will be while supplies last. So if you want to take advantage of that, if you're on the fence, now's the time, because once those are done, they are done. And we also have the CarmaVap, or the Karma Map up on the website as well. I'd recommend everyone check that out. If you could pull that up, Ben. Give 1 second here.
There it is. Nice.
And so that's where everyone sent their karma into the universe. Now, this was one of your ideas, George. Can you expand upon it a little bit?
Right. So the Karma Map was our attempt to hopefully make it easier for other people to see what kind of an impact their choice to take the CarmaVaps that we shipped, and then again some of the CVAPs that we've shipped, and pass them on to someone else, so that you can see how it's impacting the world, right? Mm-hmm. At least in a little small way. And that kind of being the case, you know, the CarmaVaps and the CVAPs are really our attempt to foster a little bit more sharing and caring in the community, and for us to give back to the community. And that's what we're hoping that you're going to do with them, that give them away. Teach someone else, introduce someone to a VAP cap, show them how it works, and pay it forward. Maybe you'll come across a stranger that just needs a little bit of a pick-me-up.
Yep,
and that's what these are there for.
And speaking of paying it forward, the CVAPs are back on the website, aren't they?
The CVAPs, we were able to get a few more put together over the last few days. You may see a few pictures that I've posted, you know, in terms of processing them. I've been torching some of the tips, doing some custom jobs on them, baking some parts, and putting them together at night. We got a few more up on the website right now.
Yep, so if you're interested, be sure to check that out. And then there was one thing that I wanted to add here. We were mentioning during the snap, you had another method of cleaning the Dynacoil.
Another method of cleaning the Dynacoil.
Yes, try to remove it a little bit easier.
Oh, right. Sometimes, depending on how sticky the coil is, depending on how much usage it's had, it can be useful to preheat it for a few seconds. Not necessarily all the way till it clicks, but give it a little bit of heat for 2-3 seconds, and then pop the cap off, just to get it not hot enough to vaporize or hot enough to burn your fingers, but to get it generally warm to the touch. It'll help soften things up and make it a little bit easier to remove.
Mm-hmm. So that's just another method. If you want to be able to easily remove your Dynacoil, I'd recommend checking that out and giving it a try. And then we didn't ask for these, but we got some really cool Maker's Kit submissions. And so I think it's a good time to share those now. And so this just kind of shows you what's in
a Maker's Kit, right? A block of wood, a set of files, a condenser, a tip, and a cap. So effectively, an entire complete vaporizer with a more or less unfinished midsection, so you can explore your creativity.
And we saw some really impressive submissions. And so start with nothing, and you can get something like this. And this one, incredibly smoothed out with some really neat ridges for enhanced grip and things like that. I think this one's pretty neat, and it's always good to vote as well.
Oh, absolutely. And so what you've got is, now you've got this block of wood that you can shape into something that chances are has never been created before. And I think what's nice to see is that we're seeing some profiles that are much more carved than they are turned. Mm-hmm. And this is why we didn't include a lathe with the Maker's Kit. It would have been kind of tough to ship anyway. Mm-hmm. But I think the Maker's Kit can also function as a tool for focus, even depending on how you want to look at it, a form of meditation, that you get to sit here with this thing in a set of files, and you can focus on filing, carving, shaping, sanding, and allowing the device that you are going to create to emerge.
Well, and it's something that you can't really do passively. I know for me, I have to be paying attention to what I'm doing.
You have to be paying attention.
You have to be mindful. You have to be in the moment when you're working on it.
Right. And so focus. And focus is a really good thing. And so you spend a little bit of time focusing on it, and then you put it down. Or, since it's fully functional, you can utilize it. And maybe that'll assist the focusing process, depending on what the circumstances are.
Definitely. And we have another one here. This one, someone made a lightsaber with it. I think this one is pretty sweet. Yeah. Now, Pranav, did you recognize this as a lightsaber right away?
I did not. I realize now that you mentioned it.
I'm disappointed in you, Pranav.
But what a cool idea, right?
Yeah.
You know what? It's not just a round turned object. It's like there's lots of details really put into this, and someone put some thought and some effort in lining it up and creating these details. And so it's very uniquely yours.
Definitely. And while we're looking through these too, we'd love to see your questions. So if you have any questions, let us know in the chat, and Pranav will shout them out later. And then let's see another one, Ben. Now this one, you and I both noticed, they took some serious effort in setting up this shot.
Right, and you can see that apparently, I think those are cups in the background, might have been inspiration for some of the patterns. And wow, how cool. The cups match the pattern carved. The rosium cap seems to take some cues from looks like amethyst sitting in the background. Just an interesting blend of materials, textures, and shapes.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of reminds me of the cup reminds me of something out of like Pee-wee's Playhouse or something like that. Just very, very animated.
Yeah, that's super cool.
And then this next one, this is submitted by Trix. And this one too just shows you it can be just that one he had to go around step by step.
Around and around.
And was able to maintain those lines, get a really, really nice, smooth, clean.
It's a nice exercise in precision, right? And to have something that's precise like that without a CNC machine, it requires focus. You know, it really requires focus. And I don't want it to sound like it's off-putting that, oh, I'm going to have to really try hard on this. Well, hopefully you're going to sit down with this or stand up, however you want to make yourself comfortable, and you're going to enjoy the fact that I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to give this piece my full attention and just see what comes out.
Well, and also I think it's a good way to kind of help teach people, you know, if you make a mistake, you can't always grab your eraser and start over. Sometimes you have to push forward and roll with it and come out the other end still looking okay.
Or is it
just another step along the process?
Basically giving you, we'll call it the carving version of a writing prompt. It's like, oh, we've got this new element that has just been introduced. How are we going to incorporate it into the final product?
Mm-hmm. Just a little curveball of life.
It's adaptation. Oh. You know, it's what many of us are having to do on a little bit larger scale now than we may have anticipated as we were rounding the corner into 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, change is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But
Greg asked what the darkwood stem is made of.
Oh, great question, Pranav. The darkwood stem is made from a wood that is referred to as either ipe or Brazilian cherry. So a sustainably sourced wood that's generally very hard, has a pretty tight grain, and is relatively nice for carving because it's good tight grain structure.
Yeah.
Holds its shape pretty good.
And what about the lightwood, since we asked?
The lightwoods are locally sourced Wisconsin hard sugar maple.
And the nice thing about the lightwoods too is those you can dye with a nice food grade dye or something like that.
And we still have some of those on our website. So the lightwood makers kits, man, they're such a cool thing.
That's a blank canvas for your creativity.
Absolutely. You know, what a nice thing, especially as we're getting into spring, to sit out on your porch or on the deck, get a little bit of fresh air, and just enjoy the fact that you have a customizable tool. You can put a small tray, or a small cardboard box or whatever on your lap, so you got your files all right there, and you can just sit, carve, shape, form, and let the creative juices flow.
And speaking of the creative juices, this next photo here is one that kind of took us all aback with the creativity and detail. I think this one is just mind-boggling.
Right. So was this a maker kit, or did they find this in Central America in one of the Mayan or Aztec ruins?
Yeah, this one is just really impressive.
Just really interesting, the detail.
Yeah, if this is yours that you submitted, let us know how you ended up making this, because this is really, really impressive and just a complete piece of art while also being entirely functional. Really impressive.
Way to make it yours.
And then Pranav, do you have any thoughts on any of these that you've seen so far?
Oh, I have so many thoughts all the time.
Well, let some of them free.
Let's not go there. But I have an interesting question. So George asks, why are people creative?
Oh, man. You see, this seems like a question that we should have in a slightly different format, because this gets us into something that I enjoy in terms of dialogue, and it's just contemplating why. Why are people creative? Well, I see that there's a couple of reasons why people are creative. And I think the creativity, in my opinion, stems from originally necessity. Because when you're thrust into a situation that is unfamiliar, and now all of a sudden it's either uncomfortable or even downright dangerous, and you don't have access to many resources, well, sometimes you gotta take a breath, get creative, and see what you can utilize from what's available around you to either make the situation less dangerous, or modify the situation, find a way to get out, or make the most of it and turn it into an advantage. And I just see creativity is one of the big advantages that we as a civilization have at our disposal, should we choose to summon it or utilize it or foster it in an environment where we allow this creativity to manifest into something that can be very, very significant.
Well, and that's true whether it be like artistic creativity or like tinkering around with something to try to perfect it. It's just another form of adaptability and problem solving in different ways.
Creativity is largely problem solving, right? And even if we're talking about creating a picture, right, on a blank canvas, well, the problem is the canvas is blank. The solution is to make it not blank, and the creative solution is to make it not blank in such a fashion that can resonate, at least with the person that is applying the picture, and maybe that's all that they want. Because sometimes the result is actually not the primary objective. The journey to the result is.
And that's why I think during those steps it's important to ask yourself, why?
Why? And also, and I think this is another part of the embracing the moment type exercises and focus, and why I think it's so good that the Maker Kit is what it is, and why we kind of designed it with the elements that we did, that it doesn't come with power tools. Okay? Because yeah, you can use a Dremel tool and you can carve up that wood in no time. But if you don't, it forces the focus, and by drawing out the process over a little bit more time, it allows the creativity to manifest in a new way. It allows your brain to shift into a slightly different state of function, which I think empowers that person at that point in time to maybe do things a little bit differently than they otherwise would. And this is what I think we're finding more and more research is really pointing and indicating, that taking a little bit of time to not only exercise your brain, but to train and condition your thoughts and your thought processes so that you can have a little bit more control over them instead of just allowing them to be wherever they want to go. Channel that. It makes it easier to go the direction that you want to go, to achieve the things that are important to you. That's what I like about it.
Definitely.
And I think that this is part of why I think people are creative.
Yep. So good job on that question, Pranav.
That was a great
really
question.
good one.
question, yeah.
Do we have any other good ones in there that you're seeing?
So Jill asked if we have any Dyna swag coming out, and I'd like to take this opportunity to reach out to the community, and we'd love the community artwork, and we can then put that artwork on our blank canvases, which would be t-shirts, hoodies, you name it.
And maybe other cool things.
Yes, for sure. So if you guys have some cool artwork that you've made, or if you plan on working on something, send it to us and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, let's do that. Get us some cool stuff, and let's work together here and see what kind of other cool ideas we can come up with to decorate the DynaVerse.
Definitely. And then, Pranav, are there any other questions too while
Oh,
we're wrapping
we
things
got
up?
several questions about restocking the induction heaters, and George, I'd let you take it from here.
Okay. So the induction heater, since the first induction heater, has been a rather, we'll call it, challenging adventure. Not only from the developmental perspective, because it's an electronic device, and my background for sure has been primarily mechanical, not electronic. And electronic devices are generally not as easily scaled in a, we'll call it a startup kind of environment. They can be designed, they can be developed, but then usually then they need to be handed off to a factory somewhere else that specializes in the construction and the assembly of electronic things. And then since we're dealing with some relatively strong not voltages, but current flows to set up the ZVS circuit as we described in the induction heater video last time, you got to know what you're doing. You got to make sure you're designing the circuit correctly. And it also requires sourcing some occasionally difficult to source components. And that's been one of our bigger holdups in the production of our induction heaters is there's one component, and it happens to be an inductor, that is rather difficult to source. And it's making it difficult for us to scale up the production and maintain some of the inventory of our induction heaters. But we're working on it. We're working on reconfiguring a few things and seeing if we can't get more of these things available in the near future.
Look forward to it. And then any others, Pranav?
Here's an interesting one. Sata asks, what does DynaVap do to start the development process for the next M?
The development process begins with a question. And the primary question when developing anything is not what do we want to improve or what do we want to change, but what it almost is best to start on the negative side of things. Mm-hmm. What do we not like? Or what does someone not like? What's a feature? What's an attribute that is either missing that should be there or that is there that doesn't get along well with the others? And so we make a list. And once we have a list of things, then we start to prioritize and start to put together a plan in terms of what are we going to do? What's it going to look like? What are the key things? And sometimes within an hour or so of that list, we can go over to one of the CNC machines and work with Jason, start making modifications to the G code, and start addressing some of those things and start prototyping actual usable components. And that's such a cool way to redesign, refine, and implement the next iteration. Is not necessarily just a CAD drawing, and don't get me wrong, we certainly use CAD for various things, but nearly every aspect and feature and design component of the M has been designed, created, and hard-coded into the G code in the CNC machines.
Well, it kind of gets into the, with what we were discussing before as to the why are you doing this a certain way.
Right.
You're being mindful of the choices that you're making when you're designing something. Why are you changing this aspect from the previous iteration? It's all part of that flow.
It certainly is. And the other thing that's really changed and evolved over the course of the past couple of years is we've been able to create or cooperate with a growing group of very passionate, driven, and dedicated individuals that function as our beta testers so that we can understand from them, as well as the other members of the DynaVerse, things that we want to be focusing on in terms of changing, but then get some of the initial iterations out for someone else to look at. Because when we're making things, just like when anyone's making things, you tend to get that, we'll call it the parental perspective, okay? That most parents seem to think that their kids are somewhat special in some regard or another. And I'm not saying that that's not the case, but from a designer's perspective, we don't want to be blinded by our own perspective. We need to be much more open to and invite other people's perspective, especially the ones that are going to let us know the things that aren't quite right or don't work as good as we might think that they would. Or, you know what, no, you're just doing it wrong. Well, no, you're the customer. Just because we don't think you understand how to do it correctly, well, that's not good enough. It's got to make sense. Our goal is to make our devices as good as we possibly can, as durable as possible, but also as intuitive as we can. And that's a lot harder than it might seem.
Well stated. And is there one last question, Pranav, that we can take before we wrap everything up?
JJ asks if we can make a Vong from hemp or bamboo.
Probably. We might have to try that. That might be fun.
Well, and so we want to thank everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate it. I want to thank Ben and Bryce behind the camera, George and Pranav for being on the show. We want to thank all you for watching. Make sure that you subscribe and ring the bell so that way you're notified whenever we release more videos. Go on the Instagram pages. You can go to Dynatography for DynaVap photography, and then the DynaVap page to see all the different giveaways and behind the scenes type of things. So check that out.
And don't forget to join the DynaVerse Discord. The invite link is in the video description. We have 100 spots open at the moment. So come in, say hi, and let's get to know each other.
And I did see a comment, a few people looking to learn how to be part of the DynaVap beta team. The DynaVap or the DynaVerse Discord is probably a good place to post those questions and interact with some of us here at DynaVap. And we'll see if we have a few more spots open.
Definitely. And I think that just about wraps everything up. We will see you next time on May 7th, 4:19 p.m. Central Standard Time. I want to thank you all for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you thought of this episode and what you would like seeing discussed on future episodes of DynaVap Live. We will see you next time.
Can I come back from space now?
Thanks for watching. For more videos, click here or here, and don't forget to subscribe.